Hello everyone, I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here on the front lines in the battle against the cabal, the deep state, the Illuminati, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. And how is everyone doing today? Well, always something going on the front lines. It actually seems to be increasing its amount of interesting front lines to look at. So I titled this one based upon a Trump speech in Milwaukee, in which he was speaking about water and how they have these restrictors on a faucet. You can buy a faucet now. You turn it and no water comes out, right? In the shower, he's showering, and it takes 5 times longer to shower and probably wastes more water. Anyway, on this, and now someone sent in the Telegram group, WWGA, sometimes I'm just off on it. So it's a WWG1 WGA.love Telegram group. We have there was a message that they edited out or censored on Fox what he was saying in regards to California dumping water into the ocean. Remember, there's all of this. They've restricted all this water flow into California's Central Valley, where all the farmers are. They've cut off the spigot. Right? So for no reason other than what they claim was to save a fish that was not native, some tiny little fish. I forgot what it's called, silver something, that was not even native to the area. But they have to save this fish. And as I would drive up and down California coast, or not even the coast, but the center through the main I-5, there would be large farms, large orchards of trees that have gone dry. They can't water their crops, and it would say big signs: Congress created Dust Bowl. And to find out that the water that they could send to the farmers, they dump in the ocean, fresh water. The overflow that they've kept back, they don't allow it to go to the farmers. That is on purpose. That is to drive out the family farmers, to turn it over to big agro-business, right, that will only do GMO type of parts. So yeah, they can dry it out for years, get rid of all the competition, and bring it down to only one food provider. Ultimately, I believe that's the goal. So anyway, I've got this queued up, so let me go ahead and flip some screens around here. There we go. Now we're going to focus on these two. So again, this is Fox on the left, and then Right Side Broadcasting on the right. Now, we're just going to go through and watch what happens. We're just about the same spot, slightly different camera angles, but same part of the speech.
10, 50, but we don't talk about that. Because I've said this 3 or 4 times, the only subject we ever talk about is toilet, so I don't mention it. But how about the shower? You go into a shower, and I have this beautiful head of hair. I need a lot of water. And you go into the shower, right? You turn on the water, drip, drip, drip. I call the guy, something wrong with this? No, sir, it's just a restrictor. So you're in there 5 times longer than you're supposed to be. You use probably more water, and it's a very unpleasant experience. And then opportunity zones
happened?
Here in Wisconsin, and Ron Johnson.
What happened? What happened there? Didn't seem like it jumped. It's supposed to be a live broadcast, by Fox. Let's see what happens on this one. This is a Brightside Broadcasting Network. They have 403,000 subscribers. Well, I'll add one to it. So let's see what it has to say on the side.
But you know that's 10, 50, but we don't talk about that. Because I've said this 3 or 4 times, the only subject they ever talk about is toilets, so I don't mention it. But how about the shower? You go into a shower, and I have this beautiful head of hair, I need a lot of water. And you go into the shower, right? You turn on the water, drip, drip, drip. I call the guy, is something wrong with this? No, sir, it's just a restrictor. So you're in there 5 times longer than like this, you know, because there's zero pressure behind it, no water.
No.
You go like that, the thing flips on, and whoa. And then, dung, dung. These people are crazy. And then in California, this governor, who has no clue, by the way, he has no clue. Governor Gavin Newsom. He sends all the water out to the Pacific. And then he just comes up, I don't know if you saw this, they come up with rules and regulations that's starting soon. If you're a person who lives in California, you only get 50 gallons of water. Now, it sounds like a lot of water, but it's not. If you take a shower, wash your hands a couple of times a day, it's not. Then it goes down to 47, 46, 45. Can you imagine you pay the highest taxes outside of New York, where they're not doing a good job in New York, they're not doing good. Everyone's leaving New York for other environs like Florida. It's not good because the taxes are too high. Governor Cuomo's got to get those taxes down, got to get them down, and other things have to happen. But here's Gavin Newsom. So Gavin Newsom, you have the water pouring down from up north. Millions and millions of gallons. You know what they do with it? They divert it into the Pacific Ocean because they have these. We must be in Wisconsin. No. Millions of gallons coming down from the north. It goes out this massive valve. You talk about a valve, this is a serious valve. And they turn it, and it just because they have a tiny, tiny little fish that's doing very poorly with or without the water. So in the meantime, if you own a home on Beverly Hills, they scream at you if you want to, water your grass a little bit, right? But you have no water coming in. They divert millions and millions of gallons. And what we've just done for the people of California is we've made it possible on a federal basis that they don't have to divert all that water anymore. Now, that's only good for California, but these are the things we do. And now the last one is we're working on cars. We're making them less expensive and safe.
Okay, so anyway, we got to hear the difference there. I'm going to flip over here for a moment. Let's see if we can go to, yeah. Now, I'm going to just bring this up right now. There's this organization. Oh, something is going on. One second. Where is that coming from? Stop. You click on things, and then all of a sudden. So, this is an organization that's basically talking about the elections, right? Election cycles and voting and getting representation, and they have Michael Douglas as the spokesperson for this, right? And I'll just go ahead. I'll bring it back to here.
Beautiful system, and we live in a magical country. How the hell did things get so bad? These days, just two.
Now, I must say that this is a very well put together advertisement for this project, right? Where they want to basically pass a particular type of law, which is, and listen, I don't deny everything that he's saying in here is true, right? Let me get to the point where actually, now this is what they want to do, right in here.
Our government back and make it work for us.
So much of what's failing is a symptom of our failed elections. Look, this isn't about giving power to the right or to the left or asking Congress to fix itself, because frankly, they won't. So we have to go around Congress. And the good news is, in the US, states run elections, even federal elections. So when we pass election laws in a state, it affects the federal elections. And get this, a Bloomberg News study showed that throughout American history, passing state laws has been the key to creating massive federal change. And the law we need to pass? It's called the American Anti-Corruption Act. It fixes the system so government can work for you and your family, not just a handful of special interests and political insiders. Here's how it works. We have independent commissions draw voting districts. We make it illegal for lobbyists to donate to politicians. We give every voter a $100 tax credit that they can use to support the candidate of their choice. We put reasonable term limits on elected officials. We implement ranked choice voting to allow independents and third parties to run without spoiling elections. And finally, we enact secure, automatic voter registration and vote from home ballots. So now you've got more people voting and it's easier to vote.
So let's wind this back a little bit. Let me wind this up a little bit. If I can line this up a little bit better so we can kind of go over this at the same time. Okay.
This is common sense stuff. It creates a Congress that's and vote from home on elected officials. Illegal Anti-Corruption Act. It fixes the system so government can work for you and your family.
So anyway, I want to go over this, one piece at a time, and let's have a little conversation about it. All right.
Not just a handful of special interests and political insiders. Here's how it works. We have independent commissions draw voting districts.
Okay, independent commissions drawing voting districts. Okay, gerrymandering has been a long time issue. I don't doubt that it is true. So everything that all these points that are being brought out here, I think, are very valid. Don't get me wrong. And my whole take on this is that a lot of these things are like, what is the problem, right? They've broken the system. Now they're going to come up with the solution. Who's they? That is the question. Who is actually behind this? Now, when it's so well organized, we first come out with the Hollywood actors behind it, I'm very, very worried. All right? But I'll tell you what I'm picking up as we go. Okay. Independent commissions for drawing the districts. Okay. That still means that it can be crazy, right? It can be crazy lines, right? Political and politicians coming into the middle of it and doing things, bribes or whatever. Who knows which way it's going to get drawn? I mean, there is a legitimate way to basically do this, right? That is just about really a geographic area, a town, right? The towns have borders. If there's two towns that have to come together to form a group, so be it. All right, but not this cutting through time, all these things. So, as soon as this sounds good, but I'm concerned, right? So let's go on.
We make it illegal for lobbyists to donate to politicians.
Okay, reasonable, right? I think it's that way already, isn't it? As far as I know. I believe it is illegal for any politician to accept gifts from lobbyists. So, but, just throw that into the mix.
We give every voter a $100 tax credit that they can use to support the candidate of their choice.
Now, this has been asked for by the politicians forever. Since I was 18 and voting the first time, with Ronald Reagan running for office, they were asking back then any which way to get the apparatus, right? So they don't have to do the fundraising. So the government just gives the money to the people running. Say, hey, you go and run. You think politics are not going to be going there? And then what they'll do is they'll say, "Oh, well, you can't take money from anyone else." That's what comes after that. So again, this is, all red flags.
We put reasonable term limits on
Term limits, right? So reasonable term limits. I go back and forth on this. I think that if we have a legitimate voting system in the electorate, that our term limits are part of our ability to vote people in and out. I do believe that people should be able to be ousted if they were brought into the office and then they suddenly flip, like they lied to everyone, right? And everyone says, "Listen, you said this, we're going to recall you." I think that's legitimate. But anyway, we'll continue.
officials. We implement ranked choice voting to allow independents and third parties to run without spoiling elections.
I have no idea what that is, ranked choice voting. I have no idea what that means. Willing to learn, but so far, I'm not sure where we're going here.
And finally, we enact secure, automatic voter registration.
Secure, automatic, get a driver's license, automatic voting. That's what, again, they've been pushing this.
And vote from home ballots. So
vote for home ballots. Well, that's legitimate anyway. They already have absentee voting, right? So many people do absentee. I'm going to be absent from the line. I'm going to basically mail my vote in. So
now you've got more people voting, and it's easier to vote. This is
more people voting and easier to vote, even if they're not have no legitimacy in voting. They can vote, and more hidden, not out in front of everybody. So there's this ad, right, and then right next, also coming in was the same people, another ad, another person.
Rigging it, but actually fixing it. That's when I met Josh.
This is it. This is the issue behind the issues. If we fix the system, we'll have so much more power to fix everything else. So I spoke to some of the most brilliant people in the country. Constitutional scholar Lawrence Lessig, Zephyr Teachout, and dozens of other constitutional scholars.
So anyway, I want to point out that this is very well done, high value production, right? I'm very, very cautious about whatever this is. Listen, I'm not saying we don't need to have things fixed, but we have to be careful on who we're basically trusting to fix them, to put out those ideas. And so far, Hollywood doesn't have my vote as being reliable. All right. So let's go on about a few other things. Actually, I like this kind of setup a little bit. So I'll actually just do a little stretch here. That also works. Actually, I should probably just verify how the video is looking, going out to everybody. Yeah, that's okay. All right, looking good. There. All right. Now, again, I'm going to go over some news items that came through on the WWG WGA.love Telegram group. Also, Lawful America, a couple of other Telegram groups. Actually, I'll bring them up since I'm now displaying the screen in this way. So this is the WWG1 WGA Telegram group. You can see here, it's a WWG1 WGA lowercase LOVE. There's no dot in there, right? But in the website, there's a dot. But if you actually put this as a URL on a web browser, t.me/WWG1 WGA love, you would basically come to this group. It actually have you install Telegram if you didn't have Telegram already. So that's that. So this is what's coming in, And I'm just going through it now as a news feed. All these things. Oh, look, here's the common law handbook. Never consent by pressing the OK button when I hit the Greensback emitter. So if I clicked on that, it will take me to Instagram. So I really don't know what they're saying here. They say, couldn't post your comment. I guess that was removed, looks like. All right. So anyway, now you get the idea. So this was one of the things that came in, and of course the other one as well. This one. This is another article that came through. I think I'm going the wrong direction. Let me reverse myself here. So this is a tweet basically talking about John Bolton being in, or his doppelganger. Is it really John Bolton walking on the sidewalk in Doha? I don't know where exactly that is, but it did look like John Bolton, but I don't think it actually is. Alright, so I gotta slow it down here. Looks like John Bolton, but I don't think it is. Okay, this is a video on bankers, wars, and revolutions, the Illuminati, Freemasonry, and the New World Order, from August 31st, 2016. That's another video, so it's quite long. This is interesting as well. This is, once we do accept cookies, all right. This is basically China's police now have laser rifles that can set a whole person on fire up to 1 kilometer away. China has developed a new portable laser weapon that can zap a target from nearly 1 kilometer away. That's interesting. This is basically a lesson for basically fighting the system, right? If you're having a couple of this, so this also is something that came through. So there's a variety of things that's come through. This is basically what the effect of vaccines have on liver. Now, this is a test that was done on pigs. So you want to talk about what kind of health benefits there are from vaccines? Well, the liver on the left, these are pig livers. They were being tested, right? So the one liver on the left is the one that had the vaccinations. The one on the right did not. So what are the effects of the vaccines? Is not really that beneficial to the pig's liver, it looks like, and by extension, our livers. This is basically about this from before it's news. Is also get some good stuff there. So Virginia declares state of emergency as armed militia targets Capitol. This, from January 15th. And so there's a couple of videos in here that I listened to some of them, but they go through more details. This is a 2-hour video. This is an hour video on it, and so they're talking about the issues. And here's the governor. And basically, really that there's a showdown coming up on the 20th. Again, this was the website that they took us to, the one that I'm worried about. McConnell says the Senate may approve the USMCA this week. Well, that's also good news. The end of mandates. It came on a Twitter, so let's see what does it say. From thenaturalblaze.com. There we go. All right, so in the name of implementing vaccine mandates across the nation or around the world, governments are going to create extremes to intimidate citizens into submission and of giving up their natural endowed rights to choose for themselves. Right, so it's an article basically about that. All right, let's move on. Kansas lawmakers whisked away for a secret Homeland Security briefing in a routine, routine something. There's a video, so it's a 1 minute video, it's halfway through. It says the Department of Homeland Security has suspended plans for chemical testing at the Chillicothe Indian School in North Oklahoma. The safety of the South Central Kansans has placed a priority during this process. I commented DHS for listening to our concerns. So, obviously there was some testing that they were going to do on a school, chemical testing. I'm glad they listened to their concerns. They stopped that. All right, this is also interesting as well. Alvenati arrested by IRS agents during California State Bar hearing. So this yesterday, right? So anyway, that's good to hear. So anyway, if you remember on the mainstream media, they were actually listing Avenatti as a really good potential as one of the guys that could go up against Trump in the election. Oh, they loved him a lot. There was a lot of other on this particular tweet. It's talking about Project Veritas. Right. So Part 2 Sanders 2020 organizer. There are things that are more important than the rule of law in the USA. Declares his views are shared by many others within the campaign. Secret Service notified over POTUS assassination concern. I'll play this, just a little bit of this, because he's really outlining more about what they did in this Project Veritas, where they actually have some of the organizers, on the ground organizers for the Sanders campaign, really, what their views are, and very scary.
Sanders campaign staffer Kyle Jurek, an extreme radical who has been paid more than $10,000 for his campaign work. We wonder, how many other radicals like Jurek are embedded in the Sanders campaign apparatus? Jurek's ideas are beyond scary, especially his take on the Soviet Union's gulags.
There's a reason Joseph Stalin had gulags, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, gulags were a lot better than what the CIA has told us that they were.
Wait a second. This is crazy talk. I mean, the most comprehensive literary work about the Soviet Union was done by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for describing the horror, the violence, the tragedy, the carnage, the genocide that occurred in the Soviet gulags. And when we released a video yesterday, this video has even more discussion and praise about these gulags. Quote, prisoners would have their skulls squeezed with iron rings, that a human being would be lowered into an acid bath, that they would be trussed up naked to be bitten by ants and bedbugs, that a ramrod heated over a Primus stove would be thrust up their anal canal, the secret brand, that a man's genitals would be slowly crushed beneath the toe of a jackboot, and that, in the luckiest possible circumstances, prisoners would be tortured by being kept from sleeping for a week, by thirst, and by being beaten to a bloody pulp.
So that was the intention of gulags, right? It's not only to remove the people that were insidious to the state from the state, hey, you guys are all causing problems. You're working against the revolution. We're just going to remove you and put you in Siberia, where you learn the value of being a comrade. That's that's what it has to be. Our prisons in the United States right now are far worse than anything that they experienced in Gulag.
That guy is really out of it, right? There's a lot of people out there that romanticize the idea of communism, socialism. They haven't experienced it themselves. Anyone that I've known that has experienced it in my years of out there, and have talked with people, it's not something, that is ever what it was advertised to be. It's always some romantic idea, something for a utopian view that how great it's going to be whenever we get the guys with all the money to get their money. And who gets to keep it is the people that are in power. And the people that don't have any money in the first place don't end up with more money. They were just used to get rid of the people with the money. It's basically a theft. That's all it is. The concepts of everyone is equal is blurred by you have equal rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But people are different. Men and women are different. Children's are different from adults to the elderly. People's abilities are different, and society will value those differently. So, but to give this idea that you're going to have this level playing field, it never works out that way. Because it's just an illusion that they sell to these people, and they don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, well, let's go on. That's Project Veritas Expose 2020, I believe, is the website name. This was something from Trump, I guess again in Farsi. What's it was saying? Trump translation: the Iranian government should allow human rights groups to monitor and report on the current reality. And what does Iran say? Yeah, I have them stop by our kids' concentration camps at your border first. Well, that's an interesting perspective on things, right? That's it. Well, anyway, we'll go on. Okay, UK police block request to trace Prince Andrew's location on the night he was accused of having sex with Virginia Goofy, citing national security concerns. Well, probably more and more is going to be coming out on this, right? This is an interesting one for Nancy, so we'll go ahead and listen to this. It's only 6 seconds.
Voters in America should decide who our president is, not Vladimir Putin. Voters in America should decide who our president is, not Vladimir Putin.
So she's sounding drunk. I don't think this was a slowed down deep fake on Nancy like was happened before, where they made her sound like she was drunk. Maybe she is. Maybe she's having a hard time. All right, this is Democrats just blocked a vote on resolution supporting Iran protesters. I mean, whose side are they on? Whose side are they on, really? Said. Oh, this is an article on American Thinker. So I followed Q since the first drop, and I've grown increasingly impressed by the accuracy, breadth, and depth of Q's messages. It's over here. And this is the article on American Thinker from January 14th, an introduction to Q. So who is Q? What is Q? And perhaps most importantly, why is Q? Q in the ever-growing worldwide movement it's inspired to have been the objects of fascination, mockery, and hatred, but surprisingly little serious analysis. Q first appeared in October 2017 and based on my birthday's on the 17th in October. 17 is the number of Q in the letter, what number it occupies in the alphabet, so number 17. So I'm not Q. All right, so Q first appeared October 17th, October 2017 on an anonymous online forum called 4chan, posting messages that implied top clearance knowledge of upcoming events. More than 3,000 messages later, Q has created a disturbing, multifaceted portrait of a global crime syndicate that operates with impunity. Q's followers and the QAnon community faithfully analyzed every detail of Q's drops, which were compiled here and here. The mainstream media has published hundreds of articles attacking Q as an insane right-wing conspiracy, particularly after President Trump seemed to publicly confirm his connection to it. At a North Carolina rally in 2019, Trump made a point of drawing attention to a baby wearing a onesie, whatever that is, with a big Q on it. I guess it's a kind of garment. Okay, in recent weeks, the tempo of Trump's spotlighting of Q has accelerated, with President retweeting Q followers 20 times in one day. Trump has feathered Q fans in his ads and deployed one of Q's signature phrases, "These people are sick," at his rally. Right? So these are things that Q says being parroted by POTUS. The president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, has also retweeted Q followers. Q has noted that the media never asked Trump the obvious question, "What do you think of Q?" The Q followers, the reason they don't ask is obvious. They're afraid of the answer. In the meantime, Q's influence continues to spread. Protesters in Hong Kong, Iran, and France have held up Q signs and chanted Q quotes. Q's revelations are uniting the people all over the world who want freedom. If you're unfamiliar with Q or are only know it through the media's attacks, I'd like to provide a brief introduction to this extraordinary phenomenon. I've followed Q ever since the first drop, and I've grown increasingly impressed by this accuracy, breadth, and depth of Q's messages. Q followers were prepared long in advance for the easing of hostilities with North Korea and the deflation of mullahs in Iran and the discovery of Ukraine as a hotbed of corruption for American politicians. They knew a great deal about Jeffrey Epstein's activities before the public did, and anticipate even more shocking revelations to come. As Q likes to say, future proves past. As Q's predictions come true, they lend retroactive credibility to the entire enterprise. Q's followers believe that Q is a military intelligence operation, the first of its kind, whose goal is to provide the public with secret information. Many Q followers think the Q team was founded by Admiral Michael Rogers, the former director of National Security Agency and former commander of the U.S. Cyber Command. Some suspect that Dan Savino, White House Director of Social Media, is part of the team because of the high quality of Q's writing has a luster of a communications expert. Q is a new weapon in the game of information warfare. Bypassing a hostile media and corrupt government to communicate directly to the public. Think of Q as a companion to Trump's Twitter. Whereas Trump communicates bluntly and directly, Q is cryptic and sly and subtle and offers only clues that beg for content and connection. Here's the way it works. Q posts messages, also known as drops or crumbs, on an anonymous online forum which are discussed, analyzed, and critiqued by the board's inhabitants. The forum has changed a few times after massive online attacks. Hundreds of social media accounts then spread Q's latest posting to the worldwide followers who share their research, analysis, and interruptions of Q's latest information. Just to make a point here, it's estimated that Q has reached, I think it was 35 to 50 million individuals. This was as of over a year ago. So it's quite a reach, right? So I've compiled a list of Q's most famous catchphrases and tried to put them into context. Okay. The Great Awakening. We've lived in a unique time in which ordinary citizens around the world are collaborating to routine and expose the corrupt systems that rules us. The system thrives on deception, and overwhelming task of the Great Awakening is to penetrate its lies and reveal the truth. The first phase of the Great Awakening is heightened awareness of the deep state, the interlocking governmental entities that operate outside the law to expand their own power. Elections and popular opinion don't impact the ability of the deep state to enforce its agenda. Second phase of the Great Awakening is investigates the deep state alliance with the power sectors, the media, Hollywood, charities, nonprofits, public schools, universities, religious organizations, medical, scientific, and financial institutions, and multinational corporations. This phase can be painful as you discover that those you trust the most, in Q's phrase, are deceiving you. Beloved celebrities, religious leaders, doctors, educators, innovators, and good doers are all in on the hoax. And that is true. They're all part of it. The third phase of the Great Awakening is perhaps the most painful of all. The people who rule us are not merely amoral creatures who view us as collateral damage in their drive for money and power. It's scarier than that. It penetrates. It potentiates that we serve are actively trying to harm us, and their goal that we're under their coordinated attack. So he laid that on a little thin, right? It is most painful of all. Pedivores, satanic pedivores, ritualistic power structure that keeps them all in check through bribery and blackmail. All right, dark to light is another theme here. Q tells us that what our rulers fear the most is exposure. Bringing their crimes out of the protected darkness into the light of public scrutiny destroys their power to deceive. And their power fades, the darkness of our divide, violent world will yield to the light of freedom, cooperation, and peace. Next one. Where we go one, we go all. As much as you can see of our phrase here, .love is our website. Right? So wwg1wga.love. All right. Q's most famous phrase expresses the worldwide egalitarian nature of the movement. Every country is suffering from the system's oppression, and the whole world will benefit from rebirth of freedom. In this unique movement, anonymous citizens worked in collaboration with the highest-ranking military leaders and the president, and everyone's contributions are valued. When commentators on the board have thanked Q for this the service, Q replied that no one is above, no one is below. We work for you. Another phrase, these people are sick. Perhaps the most difficult aspect of the Great Awakening is coming to terms with the depravity of the rulers whom Q has called the cult. Jeffrey Epstein's story has helped to awaken people to some of the elite's crimes. The mysterious temple on Epstein's island hints at possible future revelations that are frightening in their scope. Q followers believe that the cult engages in ritual practices and enshrine the shedding of blood and which prey on the innocence of children. The sickness is their souls thrive brutality on war and terror. These disclosures will be tough for the public to take. That is for sure. Trust the plan. Presumably, military leaders who created Q, who protected Trump throughout the elections and presidency, have created a precise path to victory. Despite the seeming chaos of the daily event, a steady progression of victories has taken place. The plan includes offensive maneuvers against the cult's financial power, legal standing, human supply chains, military capacity. And a crucial importance, the plan attacks the cult's ability to control the narrative that shapes the public belief. In this high-stakes game of information warfare, Q plays a vital role by empowering ordinary citizens like me, like you, to spread the truth. Trust the plan. Now, to add to that, we think that there is AI involved, also along with Project Looking Glass, which is a device that allows for predictive futures to be seen. And that with these technologies in hand, they're able to produce these 1 year and now happening 2 year deltas of proofs. And what does these deltas mean? It's basically when you have something that from say 1 year ago to this year, a 1 year delta. There's sometimes a 30-day delta. There's sometimes a 1 second delta, meaning Q posts something and Trump posts something, and they're interrelated, right? You have to take them both together to get what's being said. So the Twitter post along with the Q post are telling a complete story. But sometimes these go out to be a year, and now it's happening where they're 2 year deltas, meaning that you can go back 2 years from the date of one to this to the current one, and they line up. Especially what this just happened is regarding to Iran. There's some 2 year deltas starting because now it's over 2 years, right? So how do you have a 2 year delta? How you're able to predict things so far out in advance is using these predictive algorithms and artificial intelligence systems to put all the factors together and say how are things going to come out in line? What is the progress of things? You know how Congress works, how slow things are, what news cycles are. You feed these all in, and you can basically tweak things here and there and analyze when is it going to come out. Like, for example, what day will the impeachment start? And be accurate a year in advance. Okay, so I trust the plan. They want you divided is another theme here. The hatred that grows between races, classes, age groups, religions, political parties is supposedly fomented by the cult. The more we're divided and focused on attacking each other, the weaker we become. Q urges us to stay together and to fight the cult, not each other. So we have to realize there's no Democrats and Republicans in this battle, right? It's really, there is an us versus them. And they have treated it that way. The elite, the cabal, the Illuminadonkeys, as we start the program, when we talk about what the front lines are, they treat us as the enemy, as their resources, as their owned property. They are the ones that have hidden behind the political apparatus and said left versus right, stupid issue versus stupid issue, having nothing to do with solving the major problems such as human trafficking, water, denying water to the farmers. Talk about stupid issues, creating more stupid issues for people to be, well, you're a racist because you think you said this. What does that have to do with racism? Nothing was said had to do with racism. No one said came out and said, oh, you're anti this or anti that. All about division. That's where we have to come together. All right. Next, They think you are sheep. There you go, sheeple. The cult believes that Q says you'll follow the stars. Those stars, or as I was discussing earlier, like Michael Douglas, right? Or any of the Hollywood people coming out. That's why I immediately have problems with what this well-produced solution to the problem they created is. All right. The celebrities in media, Hollywood, and academia who tell you in a coordinated fashion and well-done productions what you're supposed to think. Their contempt for you makes them confident that you control you and ensure that you surrender to any agenda. Q, on the other hand, offers only clues and can only be understood by high-grade critical thinking, spurred by constant crowdsourcing, criticism, and reassessment. The essence of the Q movement is to think for yourself. And that's definitely what we need to do. And critical thinking, not identity politics thinking, labeling. You label someone, you don't have to hear what they have to say. The facts don't matter then. That is what you've been trained to do. All right, move on. Bigger than you can imagine, expand your thinking. Q encourages us to reevaluate everything we think and know. The cult may date back to ancient times, and through its powerful families, it might have manipulated historical events in ways that we haven't suspected. The cult may also possess advanced technology and medical cures that have not been released to the public. One aspect that may be bigger than you can imagine is the unfathomable scale of theft from our national coffers, the funds of foreign aid and wars that wind up in the cult's pockets. So basically, this is the really the bigger problem here, right? Expand your thinking. I have no problem expanding my thinking. I've gone out even when we say like trust the plan, and the plan was put together. I saw this immediately as Tesla's plan. Going back to Tesla creating a plan to save everything. Why? Well, Tesla developed technologies that are like Project Looking Glass, being able to peer into the future, right? So just like, and I've had a theory about deja vu really being about more of a magnetic weather pattern, or gravity and magnetic weather pattern that you basically push up against this bubble and you kind of peer through it, and you kind of get this future being pushed over you a few moments ahead of time. So that's where you have this impression that you're experiencing the future, or something that you thought was in a dream. But in reality, it was just you were peering into the future a few moments. Now, if you could have a technology that allowed this bubble to be pushed way ahead, right? You could see further down the line, decades, centuries, millennium down the line. What would you be able to do with that? So, you have to expand your thinking. All right, so let's go on a little bit here. Okay, track resignations. Beneath the surface, a board and deep cleansing of corrupt players is taking place. Q has asked us to track resignations to understand the scope of activity. Here's a website that took him up on the request. Resignation.info. Resignations, retirements, unexpected deaths of major players in politics, media, charities, corporations of all point to possible deals being made quietly without the public fanfare of arrest. For me, a notable resignation is Eric Schmidt. Abrupt exit from Google, which left that received a little media attention. Well, why did it receive just very little media attention? Talk about General Soleimani being taken out by a drone strike, right? You got all this media attention where the media is all on the side of Iran, right? Apparently, right? But when the most powerful corporation in the world, the CEO, just decides to leave, no media attention. Why is that? Because he's their general. They don't want to draw attention to it. Okay. So Schmidt resigned on December 21st, 2017, the same day President Trump signed the executive order declaring a national emergency related to serious human rights abuses and corruption around the world. Further context for Schmidt's resignation may be inferred from his photo of him in North Korea, apparently in an advisory role. Standing next to him is Bill Richardson, former governor of New Mexico, also former Clinton White House operative. Former governor of New Mexico, a state in which Epstein had a secret ranch. Richardson also had been accused by one of Epstein's victims, and also built a spaceport in New Mexico. Just saying. Expand your thinking. There needs to be symbols. Their need for symbols will be their downfall. It's another theme, because they speak through symbols, through pictures, through certain phrases and words. So the cult uses certain symbols over and over and over again, which may serve some ritualistic need, but makes them vulnerable to detection. Q followers are familiar with the Y-shaped horns that mimic those of a goat deity, Baphomet. Owls, pyramids, and the eye increase within the pyramid. Red shoes, bandaged fingers, and on the bandaged fingers front, if you notice that all in the impeachment hearings, when the Democrat brought forth their witnesses of legal scholars, all of them had a Band-Aid on their hand. Very strange. They did it all at the same time. Did they do a ceremony beforehand and all get a reason to put a Band-Aid? Interesting. Okay, bandaged fingers and other repeated symbols, including the mysterious black eye that affects so many famous people. The Q Army also knows the coded pedophile symbols listed by the FBI. When the Q drew attention to the design of Epstein's temple, alert Q followers noticed how similar it is to the set design of the famous Top Show. And the red ring on the hand of the dead terrorist Qasem Soleimani prompted Q followers to compile images of similar rings on hands of power people. You know what? I didn't even know about this. Something to investigate, right? An excellent source of understanding of how these symbols are incorporated into pop culture, targeting young through music videos, TV shows, and movies can be found at vigilanttcitizens.com. Okay. Nothing can stop. This is the next one, right? Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing. Now comes the pain. The headlines on any given day may sound discouraging for all those who want justice to prevail, but these setbacks are temporary. As a juggernaut of justice heads our way, as Q likes to say, we have it all. Massive amounts of irrefutable evidence await the criminals who try to evade their reckoning in court. For those who worry about Trump's ability to overcome impeachment, election fraud, assassination attempts, Q assures us, patriots in control. And there's no legal tricks that can help these criminals escape the ultimate judgment of the public disgust. Q promises that us the day is coming when they can't walk down the streets. Because when all is known of what's going on, for the average everyday people, when these people appear anywhere, there's going to be so much disgust for what they've been shown to be doing, that they wouldn't be able to walk down the street because people would literally find pitchforks, and chase them down. All right. You are the news now as the next one. Okay, the fake news decried by President Trump is losing its credibility and audience by the day. Q has exposed the 4 a.m. drops that provide the daily talking points to the media personnel so that they can all parrot the same propaganda. They all say the same word on every single one of the mainstream media. They all parrot the same thing. And so it is directed. They are not real. They're just reading a script that's given by who? Okay, the media is concentrated within 6 powerful companies. On the other hand, the Q Army is vast, voluntary, and anonymous. Q assures us that our efforts are to disseminate the truth through social media and concentrations within the friends and family, and are having a huge impact. We are the news now. Yes, we are. All right. Next. We know what happens in the end. God wins. Many times Q has asked us to pray. He has quoted the famous Bible lines, Ephesians 6:2, for we wrestle not against the flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We're living through monumental times. It's confronting that Q believes, it's comforting that Q believes that we work together, God wins. There we go. So that is the article, Q for Beginners, Part 1. It's a really well written. Again, this is on American Thinker, January 14th, 2020. An Introduction to Q by Deborah Franklin. Thank you so much, Deborah, for that. All right, we'll go on. Oh, I guess Tank has not popped up on here yet, so we'll just keep rolling through a couple more news items here. All right, exposes Iran's weakness for all to see. My latest op-ed. So that's Rudy Giuliani. So this is there's actually a reader on this that we could actually push play and listen to it as well. I'll give my voice a little bit of a time, but so let's do that. Okay, recover.
President Trump exposed Iran's weakness for all to see. The last week presented a dramatic confrontation between two nations, one with nuclear power and the other hoping to have it possibly possessing it. The commentary was abuzz with the fear of war. Then within, it seemed, a day, the threat of war was over. The Trump administration's handling of the Ayatollah seemed the most effective since Ronald Reagan's inauguration forced the first Ayatollah to release our hostages. The strategy was brilliant. It exposed for all the world to see Iran's fear of America. It laid bare the regime of terror's dread of an all-out confrontation with the United States. There is no greater blow you can deliver to a terrorist regime than to expose its weakness, and President Donald J. Trump did it with the world watching. After the United States eliminated Iran's 4-decade-long architect of terror, Major General Qasem Soleimani, and Iranians reacted like they lost their most inspiring leader, the world was ready for massive attacks on U.S. interests and Israel. Instead, a missile attack disrupting sand formations reaffirmed that the age-old wisdom of not appeasing, but standing up to bullies is always the right approach. It avoids war. We have been coming to this point since Donald J. Trump, as a candidate, disavowed then-President Barack Obama's agreement allowing Iran a path to becoming a nuclear power and giving it billions of dollars to help it. Feed the people, arm terrorists, buy the missiles they use to attack us, steal a lot for the billionaire Ayatollah and the millionaire mullahs. The answers, if they are not obvious, will be supplied at the end. As soon as President Trump disavowed the agreement and ended the payoff, the regime of terror began testing us slowly and carefully, interfering with Allied shipping, detaining Allied seamen, firing on targets in Iraq, and then taking out a U.S. drone. The latter presented a test. Although no one died, it was an attack on American military equipment, and many wanted to respond militarily. But President Trump decided it would be disproportionate to react to an attack that cost no lives by launching one that was likely to kill innocent Iranians. It was, of course, criticized. But if you know him or the basics of negotiation, you could see it was a setup for a later move if necessary. And so it was. The Ayatollah still did not have his answer as to President Trump's trigger point. He knew he had to take it up another level to see just how far he could go. So with his butcher Soleimani, he created unrest in Iraq and then stormed the American embassy. They wanted to see just how far they could push us by not taking over the embassy. As they did 40 years ago, they were calculating, trying to expose American weakness. However, they were playing right into President Trump's hands. Iran had crossed a red line, and a response was necessary, a very carefully chosen one with an objective, and in the response would be a clear sign of America's strategy. President Trump had many options. He could have destroyed Iran's navy, which would have solved a big shipping problem in the region and deprived it of enormous ransoms. He could have hit as many nuclear facilities as possible to set the program back another 5 or 10 years. All of that would be of assistance if we found ourselves engaged in a war there in this decade. He could have hit numerous targets of critical economic infrastructure that would have done even more damage to an already crumbling economy. Instead, the president chose one person, the second most important in Iraq and the terrorist with the most blood on his hands. He had charismatic recruiting capacity and was a legendary architect of terror. If Iran is the regime of terror, Soleimani was the prince of terror. The president also chose the hardest hardliner of them all, who would normally counsel military or terrorist action rather than negotiation. In that choice, President Trump gave Iran a lot to think about and laid out as clear a strategy as we ever have had with the regime. President Trump immediately increased the already crushing sanctions and will do so again if there is any further misbehavior short of loss of human life. The Iranian economy is crumbling, headed toward life support. The anti-government demonstrations are increasing, and this will, in time, be enough to crush them. But it is now clear if lives are lost or U.S. territory attacked, then the reaction will be major to catastrophic, depending on the circumstances. President Trump has set forth a new set of rules. His objective is to force a behavior change by the regime of terror, or so says our very shrewd Secretary of State. But it is also true that the fastest change would be regime change. The administration, of course, does not support it, but many of us see it as the only realistic end. One way or the other, this administration is standing up for freedom for the Iranian people.
There we go. So that was from Rudy Giuliani. He wrote this. And thank you for the commentary that was read through here. It was very well done. Thank you. Okay, what's next here? So this is Van Jones. He said, there is nothing I saw tonight that would be able to take Donald Trump out. So they're talking about the debates, right? So let's see what he has to say here.
The Democrats have to do this, y'all, was very dispiriting. And I want to say that tonight for me was dispiriting. The Democrats have to do better than what we saw tonight. There was nothing I saw tonight that would be able to take Donald Trump out, and I want to see a Democrat in the White House as soon as possible. There was nothing tonight that, if you're looking at this thing, you say, any of these people are prepared for what Donald Trump is going to do to us, and to see further division.
That's pretty funny.
Van Jones, I hate to break the news to you, buddy, but they will never have a chance. You know you suck when CNN admit that you can't beat Trump.
That's pretty bad.
Y'all just now realizing that these Democratic candidates don't have a chance? You are late to the party, Van Jones. We've been knowing for a long time that these Democrats are loony and have no chance against President Donald J. Trump. I just hate to break. Van Jones, I need to talk to you real quick. I need you to sit down, Van Jones. Sit down. Have a seat, Van Jones. I want to break some news to you. President Donald J. Trump will be reelected in November. And I don't know how else I can say this, but he will be your president for 4 more years. Trump 2020.
Trump 2020. Oh, that was excellent. All right. Let's go on here. Say pro-MC Southern Baptist Convention and damage control after pushing open borders and its ties to Soros are exposed. Dun dun dun. All right, well let's keep that. Let's just keep going here. All right, that's the same article actually. This really goes into more about it. So. All right, and that I think is that it. Yeah, back to this. All right. So it looks like Tank is not going to be on today. So we will just move on. We'll go ahead and come back tomorrow, and we'll see if we get an update from Tank. So, but I must say that let me see if I can give kind of a somewhat update. So Tank yesterday was talking about the Kingdom of Manna, and that they had put out the word that on the 15th that they were going to shut down things, shut down the banking. And then every 15 minutes they were going to basically see if anyone had any questions. So let's talk about that. Now, there was word that was going on that, there's white screens showing on ATMs and things like that, right? Now, this was before the 15th. Well, anyway, so let's talk about what actually is capable of happening. Now, why is there a division between Kim and Kingdom and Manna? I mean, after all, Kingdom of Manna was formed by Kim, right? And she basically, basically bestowed, the monarchy onto, let's say, I don't know, Jasper. I don't know the names kind of got moved around a little bit. So anyway, but it was because she had discovered that the system that they were building to be the new financial system was being built on the Bush Ranch in Uruguay. And that behind this was ultimately Rothschilds. And that this was, a plan to where after she would move everything into the new system, that she would be killed. And that's why there was division. So, fast forward to now, and this challenge that they were putting out there. Now, they had continued to go out, and they arranged, even with Tui and Fiji and all the other island nations, and probably got together many tribes and said, we are the ones, we are the ones, we are the elected ones. And they spoke the right things. They obviously had the documents put together, with Kim, right? And basically put it out there that she was, on their team. And so now they were basically organizing for this upcoming. Now, if with that background and they were able to organize, what are they telling people out there in the world? Well, they have control over the banking system. So let's step back for a moment and say, what has been the battle, right? It's been Kim trying to basically get everyone at the tables, at the 13 bloodline families, or we'll just call them the Rothschilds, to basically fall in line and follow her lead, since she's now the one, right? But they always thought that they were going to be in power. Their plan was what they were going to continue on, and she changed the plan, and they don't like that. But this battle that's been going on between Kim and let's say the Rothschilds in this place, or the cabal, has been where she has control over things, and she's been putting more and more things under her control, right? And they've been losing more and more control. They lost control back in 2008 from access to the trust over time, so there's been no ability for them to pull down money. The Rothschilds have lost standing in the banking community as they're not as important as they used to be. That's that's what's out there. But what do they have say over, right? That they had owned central banks, and they got to basically manage that, and they have people in place inside the banks. And they can tell people inside the banks to do certain things. They can close the doors of the banks, right? Because they actually, tell the people, hey, don't go into work today. So if the kingdom of Manna was in the position of being, part of the Rothschilds, or let's say the cabal, would they have the ability to shut down banks? That's a question. Now, the question is, were the banks shut down? I haven't heard too much about that. Only these strange things, white screens on the ATMs, but that happened before the 15th. And I really don't know where that is going. If anything happened there, I caught this news item from Lucid Dreamer put out something from Thomas Williams where he said that the Rothschilds were going to announce that the GCR is over, that it's not going to be a global currency, he said. Amazing, right? So there is changes happening. I don't know when we're going to actually see money hit our accounts in any, is it, this week? Is it next week? Is it the following month? Is it after the election? I don't know. I don't know. I do know that we see the changes happening, all the positive changes, everything lining up, and that we are in a new timeline, and this is the dawn of the new age of prosperity, and where mankind is going to break out of this, has broken out of these bondages, but people have the habits of just still doing the same things. And we have to learn how to be abundant. We have to learn how not to be in fear. We have to act that way. It takes a while, I always go back to, when in the Bible they talked about the Jewish people being slaves of Egypt for all those years, centuries upon centuries, and then they're suddenly free. And then they had to wander the desert for 40 years. Well, what's 40 years? It's 2 generations. So the people that were now there were young people. They were in charge. They were eager to go out and do something. They didn't know slavery. So they didn't learn how to be slaves. So they were able to go out and make something new. So we have to do that. We have to basically act differently. Not out of fear, but out of a love for one another, out of the wanting to help, care for one another. Go out and fill a niche. Go out and build something, do something, grow something. Be something that's much better than where we've been under this strange bondage system of money. Not to say we have to get rid of money, but money has to transform. And that's kind of like some of the things I put into Kringle Gold. Right? This ecosystem is about recognizing effort and doesn't require you to put anything out of your pocket into it. So that even the poorest of people, the people without anything, only initiative, can go out and make something happen. And now this is just in the beginning. We start with our gold grain coin. We call them grains, which are basically 1 for 1 equal to a grain of gold. And we literally will acquire a grain of gold for each of these coins. And we will store it away, and we will do it in the traditional manner of a world treats gold. And we will value that, and we will then use that as our base for building our own economy, the Kringle Gold ecosystem. And then we build upon that, and we make abundance programs that people can participate in and get benefit out of as the whole community benefits. And there's a distribution of this. There's a system of shared governance, right? How we work together to build this. So we take our steps. We make this happen. All right, maybe that's good enough for today. I appreciate everyone. Please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and share this channel. Go ahead and give the thumbs up. Give a positive comments, and go to www.g1wga.love website and go ahead and register there. Small donations are welcome. $1.11 a month, $8.88 a month, or $9.99 a year, and plus other listings are there for bigger, contributions if you'd like to help out more. And everything is much appreciated. You are all wonderful. Actually, everything I've built here with Kringle Gold is because of this audience. But we are in it together. Where we go one, we go all with love. Bye-bye.